So, all guests here, ZASLOW Show 2.0 are brought to us by our beer of choice, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0, Johnny Cuba. Grab yourself a six-pack at your local Sedano's, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, Fresco y Mas. It's Thursday. A lot of people like to start their weekends on a Thursday. So come on, go pick up a six-pack of Johnny Cuba. We're talking European roots with that Caribbean soul. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us here, you see him on Meadowlark Media. You got the Basketball Illuminati podcast. Our pal is Tom Haberstroh. We haven't spoken to him in a while. How nice is it? I like to say this to everyone who used to come on ZASLOW Show on the radio, but now on ZASLOW Show 2.0 for the first time. How nice is it? We could see each other now when we have these conversations, right?
It's everything I've always wanted. When I do a radio hit with you, I'm just like, man, if I could just see Zaz, it would be so much better. My day would just be brighter. I'd have a skip to my walk. It would be just, everything would be so much flowery and amazing. And of course, this is the best way to start off a Thursday.
Thank you. I want to talk a lot of Heat stuff with you, obviously. Oh my God, terrible finish last night. Michael Bridges going to the Hall of Fame, that performance last night. But before we talk about that, we're at the All-Star break essentially. How would you sum up this NBA season so far? Because, forget from a Heat perspective, if I can look at it from an unbiased perspective, it's been a pretty wild season. Like, I especially look at the Western Conference and you look at the top few teams, like it's Denver, Memphis, Sacramento. That Western Conference is bananas. I don't know what's going to happen in the East. I mean, I think Milwaukee's the best team, but obviously Boston has looked like the best team. I don't know what's going to happen this year, Tom.
Yeah, I really thought the Golden State Warriors would be a lot better too. I mean, Steph Curry hasn't been healthy. I thought they'd be at the top of the Western Conference. I thought actually going into this year, Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, you would see a lot of teams tanking. That actually isn't the case. Teams like Indiana, Utah are actually much better than advertised going into the season. So I actually thought this season's as was going to be the season of tanking, and we haven't really seen it quite yet. And I thought there would be a Milwaukee or Philly or Boston would win 60, 70 games because there were so many wins to be had with all the tanking across the league. And we saw teams like Chicago just stand pat, Toronto stand pat at the deadline in times where I thought that they were better off just tanking, because Chicago has a top 4 protected pick going to Orlando. If they don't get all the way to the basement of the league, they lose that first round pick. So I just think this was going to be a season of tanking, and it actually hasn't been. At the top of the Western Conference, you're right. Denver has been fantastic. Jokic, I know he doesn't have many friends there in Miami, but he has been outstanding this season, triple-double with outrageous efficiency. I got a chance to see him the other night here in Charlotte. I mean, he is unguardable. As you guys saw the other night with Bam Adebayo, it's just, you don't have any answers for that guy. He's incredible. So I think he's on his way to another MVP. The Western Conference is wide open, which is why I think the KD trade went down with Phoenix. They looked at that Western Conference and said, who are we afraid of? Right. We got KD, we got CP and Devin Booker. When healthy, they should be the favorites.
Now, look, we haven't seen it yet, and I hate the whole idea of, and this happened with Brooklyn a couple years ago or a few years ago when they got together. It's like, they're the favorites. I'm like, can we see them play together? Can they play a little bit of games before we decide that they're the favorite to win the championship? How do you feel about Phoenix? Because I think it's a little bit different than the example I just gave with Phoenix, because Durant is joining this group. Like, we know, yes, Booker, Ayton, Paul, they're really good. And now we're adding Durant to that. So is there any reason to believe that they're not going to be awesome?
Well, I think the health is a huge question, but you hit the nail on the head there with the fact that KD is joining a team, an established team, a team that went to the finals a couple years ago, a team that has a culture, right? The Miami Heat, they were able to win with LeBron James, not just because he's LeBron James, but because they had an established culture with Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslem teaching LeBron and CB how this operation works, the culture of Eric Spoelstra, what to look for. KD is coming into an already established coaching staff, rotations, star players. That wasn't in the case. They were creating something in the sky in Brooklyn, and very much so when that co-star is Kyrie Irving. You're really not creating anything. It just seemed like an amazing debacle there in Brooklyn. I think it's going to be much better in Phoenix.
Why'd you leave Mario Chalmers out when you're saying what LeBron joined in Miami? Why did you leave Rio out?
That's my guy, Rio. Believe it or not, Rio and I played basketball together way back in the day at a basketball camp. And I remember one time I went into the locker room and I first got the job and I'm coming down to Miami. I'm so excited. I'm 25 years old. And I'm like, oh my God, Mario, he's in the locker room. Like, it's going to be great. The reunion. We used to hoop back in the day. And I go up to him like, Mario, what's going on, dude? And he's like, I don't know who you are.
Oh no.
Dude, man, it was heartbreaking, and I just it crumbled, and I realized how many players he had played with growing up, and so
That's
I have a
right.
special place in my heart with Rio, and I don't know, man, like that team. I think we'll talk about Bibby here about Kyle Lowry here in a second because
Oh
it's
my
just
God.
giving me nightmares rehashing that whole experience.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Heat here. I got a poll question up today, ZASLOW Show 2.0 poll question, and I'm asking all my listeners out there who do you want the Heat to sign? Kevin Love, Russell Westbrook, both of them, or neither of them? Which would your vote go to?
I would lean towards just Kevin Love, but I would think about Russell Westbrook because he does bring the offense which they need. This is a bottom five offense in the NBA. They don't have any shot creation. We know Russell Westbrook can create shots. It's just whether they can trust him down the stretch and be a star in his role. He, I think, still believes he's a star. He's not a star anymore. His legs don't have the same speed. He doesn't have the same lift. He can't finish at the rim, and he doesn't have a three-point shot. This team needs an offensive injection, which is why I think Kevin Love, who's actually top 5 at the 4 position in three-pointers made per 100 possessions, that's a real good addition for a team that really has a hole, a crater at the 4 spot. So I think Kevin Love, he might be not the starter initially, but I think he could be a really nice fit. I know Eric Spoelstra for years in Miami. I remember talking to him about how good Kevin Love was and how he would be a seamless fit next to LeBron James and D Wade because of his ability to shoot and because of his ability to pass. He's such a great passer. When he gets that rebound, he can throw it up to Jimmy Butler or whomever out in the open court. And I think he'd be a really nice addition to the team. But Russell Westbrook, you need to have a real sit down with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra to establish the fact that he is going to have to be a star in his role and not be thought of as a star player.
Do you think Love looks at a team like the Heat and like, man, they were like the original team who figured out how to use a player like myself with Chris Bosh,
Yes.
with those guys? Like, so does he look at that? You think? Because look, Miami's below Cleveland in the standings, so it's kind of weird. He gets the buyout, and he's going to go to a team that's now 2 spots below, or 3 spots below the Cavaliers. But does he look at them like Eric Spoelstra knows how to use a player in my skill set?
Look, they're starting Cale Martin, like they need Kevin Love. And I think that more than anything is what he's looking for is a role and, an opportunity to win. And we know with the Miami Heat, they want to win every single night. And so I think there are a few spots in the league that have both a need and an ability to win games. And I think the Miami Heat fit those 2 boxes. They check those 2 boxes off for Kevin Love. And look, this is an established culture. Kevin Love has the great leadership qualities. They loved him in Cleveland, but he wants to play. And I think they have an open spot for him.
How bad is the Heat's offense?
It's brutal, man. Like they lack such shot creation. Their half court offense is brutal. They're slow. They can't hit a shot. And even with Strus having a good game last night, they still couldn't pull out the victory. And it really is just baffling. Even looking at the numbers, their ability to not shoot. I mean, they have a high 3-point frequency. They're getting good looks. They just can't hit those shots. And I think Max Strus, we all kind of duped ourselves into thinking that he was the shooter he was last year. But if you look at the overall career of Max Strus, his first year with Miami, 33.8% shooting from downtown. Then his second year last year was 41% in that regular season. But in the playoffs, it went back down to 33.8% or 33.1. And this year we're at the same level, 33%. So Zaz, I'm telling you, this guy might be a 33% three-point shooter, not the 41 we saw last year. And if that's the case, man, he can't be playing these kinds of big minutes. And Kyle Lowry he can't score anymore. So they need someone to create offense and someone to hit shots. And I think Kevin Love is a great addition in terms of facilitating, getting shots to open cutters and open shooters around the paint. I mean, around the perimeter. And also he's just a great catch and shoot player in general.
Robinson returned last night. He had a couple threes. He was 2 of 7. We know his deficiencies defensively. is it worth him playing, even though it's going to give some on the other end?
You got to. I mean, they're banged up. They need an injection, someone to spark that offense and get them going. Defensively, it is a problem. I think that is the biggest thing for Duncan Robinson. We know his shot will come eventually. It's just he's one of the worst defensive players in the league over the last year or so. It's just been a huge drop off from where he was just in the bubble and where he was, shortly after that. He's really fallen apart in terms of staying in front of his defender and just the awareness. So I think when you look at Duncan Robinson, there aren't many options that they can go to get that offensive spark, and they have to try it before the playoffs.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. Probably my least favorite Heat player of all time is Kyle Lowry. Just brutal to watch. And now nobody's watching him. Nobody's even watching him on the bench. Do you have any idea what's going on there? Like, he's not even showing up these games right now.
It's been a weird experience with Kyle Lowry. The personal reasons that he was out for last year, and then the injuries, and just the play on the floor has been uninspiring to say the least. I don't know what's going on in that situation, but I do know this: when Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler are playing without Kyle Lowry, the net rating of the team, meaning how many points they outscore the opponent by per 100 possessions, is plus 21. Wow. When those three, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler, are playing without Kyle Lowry, plus 21 per 100 possessions. So it is amazing what they've been able to do on the floor without Kyle Lowry, who was brought in to be an all-star level caliber player and is on the books for another $28 million next season. To me, this is another, I won't say a Russell Westbrook situation, but it is getting to the point where at this point, he is going to be an off-season, cap space filler in a big-time trade. If they're going big game hunting this offseason, I think that's the biggest value for Kyle Lowry, is that his number on the books is going to be very helpful to go get a big-name player. Nobody
wanted him last week, right? I mean, they had to have been trying to move him. Nobody wanted him.
Well, if you know anything about Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg, is that they're and Adam Simon, they are going to go out there and try to, leave no stone unturned. And the fact that they didn't get any deal done is not a reflection of them not trying. I think they always try. They always try to improve their team. They're as good as any front office in checking in with other teams and just seeing what hypothetically, just exploring trade deals. They're really good at that. The fact that they ended up not doing anything, I think, speaks to the fact that, look, Kyle Lowry is not the commodity that people expected when he was signing in Miami. And when you look at the Los Angeles Clippers, they haven't been as desperate as advertised trying to get Russell Westbrook or Kyle Lowry in there. So, yeah, I think it is a product of Max Strus, Victor Oladipo, Kyle Lowry. All these guys have had huge drop-offs last season, and that's the problem. When you go in the trade discussions, you can't really sell high on those guys. They've lost their trade value. And so I think that's really a difficult thing for the front office to realize, is like, man, we ran it back this season. And what if those guys don't perform at the same levels as they were last year when we got to the conference finals? It's going to be really hard for this team to improve at the deadline. And you saw what happened. They couldn't improve at the deadline.
Before I let you go, I want to get your thoughts here on Bam. He's been phenomenal, right? I mean, really over like the last 2 months, something clicked over the last 2 months, really, where he's super aggressive. He's essentially the number one option now, on the offensive end. Give me some thoughts here on Bam.
Well, he's been fantastic. And this is what I think Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra were hoping to see, is how aggressive he is in attacking the basket and actually making the first move to score, which is not what he's been in years past. And I think, I loved watching him and Jokic the other night, because in many ways, as a facilitator and scorer in the paint, he can be on certain nights. The Jokic, just everything runs through him and he creates for everybody on cutters, on the perimeter. He is such an anchor for the offense. And I really need to see, is he going to be a 20-point scorer in the league consistently with high efficiency and spreading the floor? That's not him. He's not that Jokic guy. But I do think that he's able to maintain this consistent all-star level. It's so hard. It's got to be so disheartening for a guy like Bam Adebayo to hit guys with open shots or open looks, and they just can't hit them. And he has to continue to hope that process will pay off in the long run, and those shots will start to fall, and those assist totals will go way up.
Meadowlark Media, Basketball Illuminati. Tell everybody what you got coming up on Basketball Illuminati, and of course, I know you're constantly doing good stuff for ALS research, and all that stuff.
Oh, thanks, Az. Yeah, we at Basketball Illuminati have this podcast every Wednesday with Amin Al Hassan and Anthony Mays, our producer, where we tell you the truth about the NBA. We left ESPN, and now we have all the shackles off. We can talk about the way the NBA really operates. And if you want all those secrets and all those trade secrets about the league and how it goes down, go listen to Basketball Illuminati. And I really appreciate you giving a shout out to the ALS efforts. I threw out the first pitch for the Marlins last summer, and it was an amazing experience. So ALS.net if you want to contribute, ALS.net/Pepper if you want to contribute to the Pepper Challenge, which I hosted a few years ago in honor of my mom, who's still fighting to this day with ALS. And also check out Lou Gehrig Day, June 2nd in Major League Baseball, ALS awareness. It is a devastating disease, but I really thank the folks like you, Zaz, who try to get the word out and try to get some cures and treatments for this disease.
Excellent job, Tom. Excellent job. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. I hope we do it again soon, man.
You got it, man.